they jump, but as they generate force, they cave in. So I'm going to exaggerate it now. It looks like this. This is exaggerated, but you see in a lot of people that just when they generate force, they do this. If you think about this, and if you're aware of this, then you can counter it, of course, by again trying to keep your knees towards your toes, because that's how you want to jump. Knees towards your toes. So of course, if you're already jumping like this, because a lot of people are already kind of like over here, you kind of compensate by or overcompensate by keeping your knees out. So I would say try it again, but keep your knees forward. Sorry, your toes forward, and jump. Okay, a couple of times. If you want to be explosive, this is the very, very basic thing that you need to be able to do. So knee stability exercises will help with this, but this is more a motor control thing. So I do a lot of mobility stuff. The other thing that I do is motor control, and that's what I already said, is the feed back and feed forward between your muscles and your nervous system. Basically, it very often comes down on coordination and technique. Some people are better at this than other people. You will have noticed probably in your clubs as well, or with yourself, some people very naturally are able to look at movements and mimic them immediately, perfectly. So somebody does like, okay, we're going to do a Stoothow or something. So we're going to be like, okay, we're going to do Stoothow, we're going to go like over here. We're going to use a short edge and here, okay. You see some people will be like, okay, hop. And some people are just like, okay, what am I doing with my hands, or what am I using, like which edge or something? This is partially motor control. I also call it sometimes kinetic intelligence. It just means how good are you at mimicking movements and movement patterns. Good thing is, Swordfight is very good for that because it teaches you a lot about these kind of things because it's very technical. So motor control, also something very, very important, and it will affect your ability to do certain patterns like squatting or jump squatting correctly. So part of this is of course my knee stability, this jump thing. Part of it is, do I know what my body is doing?
Well, jumping squats kind of a plyo exercise.
Yes, yes.
How often can we do it?
So basically, again, it's the same thing as, and I will talk about it later a little bit more. It's the same thing as strength training. You need a couple of days in between. So if you do it every day, your body might not have enough rest. Usually 2 days is perfect, like 48 hours. But it depends from person to person, how often you do other stuff. And I will talk a little bit more about phases later on. So I'm going to teach you a couple more exercises to make it more difficult. First one we did was the one with the reset. If you're not confident in this yet, you just try, like, okay, I go down, I jump, and I land softly. I want you to focus now a little bit more on the soft landings. So what you're basically doing with a squat and with a jump squat is what they call triple extension, which means my hips are extending, my knees are extending, and my toes are extending. So what you're doing is everything is extending. So when you go down, you want the reverse. So you want everything to flex, basically. I want to land, flex my feet, flex my knees, flex my hips. Why? Shock absorption. So if I do this, and I'm not going to do this soft landing shock absorption, I'm going to go very hard landing. Now this is fine with this kind of surface, so fine, it's not comfortable, it's not nice. But so what you don't want to do is do this. Not nice because lots of shock. Not good for your joints, not good for your muscles. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our muscles as a sort of brake. So I'm going to jump and land soft like a cat. So try this while keeping your knees towards your toes, both on the way up and the way down, and try to do soft landings. If you're not comfortable, don't jump high. Just a little bit of movement.
On the jump, we try to hip thrust. Or not exaggerate?
Not exaggerate.
Thank you.
Make it natural. So, lots of people do this wrong with other exercises as well. Like you don't want to exaggerate hip thrust. You just want to go to neutral. Okay, try it. Here, then you're going to explode more, of course. So one of the things you can do is, for instance, a knee tuck jump. You go up, you bring your knees to your chest.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. Same thing. Soft landing. So
And
notice
with
it's not
plenty of time, which is-
this, but it's soft landing. Sometimes like it's to just progress. So the easiest progression is just saying like I'm just going to do it from here. I jump, complete reset. What you could also do is
Oh.
sit on a chair. You go from here. You jump.
Oh, nice.
You go back to a chair. Also a nice exercise because you basically go from 0 activation to 100% activation to 0 activation. Because when you're sitting, your legs are not moving.
And this is in relation to power.
Yes, this is power generation. Yes. All right. What else can we do? Obviously, you can do stuff on one leg. Good for knee stability as well. So you can go, for instance, say like, okay, I'm going to a lunge. Now doing not. Depends, of course, what you teach in your club. Some people do this kind of thing. Some people do this kind of thing. Doesn't matter. And from here, I'm going to go for an explosive flying knee.
Oh yeah.
Again, soft landing. I'm exploding up, soft landing, and going back to that lunge. A little bit of stability, a little bit of technique. Don't lean too much forward. Don't be over here. I want just as in like a mat or something. It's sometimes going to become a lot harder, unless it's a very strong or that's a very stable mat. Good. That's for one leg. What I also really like is you do stuff, you get better at stuff that you need for fencing. So I sometimes like to do what I call HEMA burpees. And HEMA burpees are basically, instead of going to a jump squat, you go into a lunge squat. So what I'll do is I'll go up. You go into this. Why? Because I'm in my squat. I'm developing power in my squat position, because this is not exactly the same position as a normal squat, because you have a bit of a line in between here. You're not in a straight line unless you're doing Olympic fencing, which I'm not. And you have one foot that is turned towards your opponent. So if you want, you can try this. You don't have to do the burpee, but just try a couple of times with doing your normal stance and just exploding from there. This one is the last one. Is again because we are a bit of in lunge positions very often. We're going to do 3 variations of this. First thing, go a little wider, and we're going to go from side to side. Just this. Easy enough. Then we go to one side, you push up. Push up. Don't push up so far that you go, like, you fall down. But again, you're doing shock absorption, but you're doing it one leg. Okay. You want to make it harder? We go for a circle kick. I push up, circle kick, go back
Nice.
down.
Yeah.
Circle kick. If you're just over here, it's fine. Just make a little circle, go back down. Circle kick, up. Circle kick, up. And try to not stop the movement. I'm not trying to do this and then bend. It's of course progression, so it gets harder and harder. But try to really smoothly go into that side. Tiring, I know, right? Okay, good. Last one stuff to play around with. Last one is, again, I also really like soft acrobatics and stuff like that. Is you're going to make a little pool rent.
Yes. Spin a win.
Again, coordination, shock absorption. Some more exercises. You can make this very complex. You can make this very simple. There are things that add more surprises as well. For instance, saying like I'm going to jump up and I'm going to push the wall, and I'm going to land in the lunge. Stuff like that. Again, it makes it harder. So lots and lots of exercises you can do to improve this. Again, what's important is do stuff that you can't do, or can't do well already. It doesn't mean that you always have to go over your level. You first need to master a level, of course. But if you keep doing the same thing that you can already do, you will not improve. You need to basically force your body to adapt to stuff that you cannot do yet. All right, cool. Hard part is over. Last thing I want to talk about, still about 10 minutes, and I'll answer some questions, is periodization. Periodization, who's familiar with periodization? Okay. So, basically it means phases of training. In order for you to adapt optimally, you need to not always do the same stuff over and over and over again. For the people who were on the injury panel, they said there, which I agree with, you have a certain tolerance for things. If you keep doing things the same way, your tolerance goes down if you don't recover enough. This has to do also with, of course, food, sleep, lots of different things. But usually your tolerance for certain things goes down, which means, of course, that things you do very repetitively will break down that tolerance. Like, for instance, sitting, or working at a desk, or stress while you're breathing constantly with your chest, which we can also talk about for a long time. So things wear you down, which means you need to mix it up. So in the system that I use 5 different phases of training. Each phase is about 1 month. There's a lot of science behind this as well. If you look at competitive sports, you will see that people in competitive sports will prepare for a season, for instance. They'll prepare for a season of football or for a season of basketball. They don't train the same way in preparation or during the season as they do in between seasons. So what you want to do is you want to gradually build it up. So this is for injury prevention, but also for enough recovery for your body. So the first phase that I always start people in is what I call stability. And stability is basically making sure your body is stable enough. This has to do a lot with knee stability, ankle stability, but also core. Because the core is basically the basis of my body. Core is not abs. Lots of people are just like, I'm going to train my core, I'm going to do sit-ups. Now, sit-ups, not bad in itself, but sit-ups are only one function of the core. And the most important function of the core is to not move. So, is core stability. So basically your core is what keeps you upright and which keeps your spine from buckling. So your core needs to be strong to create fast and explosive and powerful movements. So lots of people with back pain have an unstable core or have a weak core. How can you train this? With things like plank, heavy carry, so you carry a heavy weight on one side, but lots of different stuff which require your core to not move. Usually, if you have a good coach, they will also tell you to keep your spine straight. So you don't want to fence like this or like this. Usually you want to be upright. You want your core to be tight. If you've ever done any weightlifting, you know, if you had a good coach, they will also tell you that you need to brace your core. Also, I can talk about this for a long time, but I will not now. Then you go to a second phase, which is called strength endurance. And this is where you're basically going to add a bit more strength to the mix. Usually I do this with what they call supersets. You're first going to do, sorry, I missed one point. In the stability, you do a lot of exercises at a slow tempo, but a lot of reps. So for squats, for instance, that would be, I do 1, 2, 3, 4, and go back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and go back up. Why? Because this requires a lot of motor control and a lot of concentration. And then you do like 12 to 20 reps. I never go over 20 reps because that just means the exercise is not hard enough. And it takes too much time. With strength endurance, you basically go into challenging that stability after strength. So it could be, I'm first going to squats. I'm going to use squats as an example for everything here. I'm just going to squats with a barbell or with a bit of weight or something, and then I'm going to go for slow squats. By that time, usually you tire yourself out in the first exercise and then challenge your stability, your knee stability, your core stability in the second exercise. Third phase is what they call hypertrophy. Don't know if I pronounce it right in English, but this is basically muscle mass. All of these phases, I'm not going to talk about them in like a lot of detail because there's a lot to talk about here. It just means that you're going to again mix up the kind of exercises that you're going to do, and that you're going to change the amount of reps that you're going to do. There's an optimal amount of reps for each phase. If you're training for muscle mass, that rep range is usually between 6 and 12, which means if you can do 20, it means you're not training for muscle mass. You're training more for muscular endurance. So the question is, what do you want to train for? Then you have the fourth one is maximum strength, and that is basically lifting heavy stuff for just a couple of times. If you want to increase your output of strength, to do pure strength, not power, then you want to be able to do stuff like, okay, I want to lift a heavy weight, something that I can only lift between 1 and 5 times. And I do this for a lot of sets, like 5 sets. And this will increase the maximum output of strength that you can do without being exposed. And the last phase, and this is where it's important, the last phase is power. So what I want to focus on with this is that usually when I train people, power is the last phase. So what we're doing here in HEMA, we're doing lots of stuff with power, is actually relatively advanced. So they can be yay for us because we're doing advanced stuff, but not yay for us because we've not prepared ourselves to do it. So power, that's explosive stuff. You can do, some things are very easy to do explosively. For instance, you can say like, okay, I'm gonna do jump squats, or I'm gonna do like, push-ups, I'm gonna clap, stuff like that. You can also do this on a table or against a wall. But very good way to train this as well is, for instance, throwing stuff. Using medicine balls or just blocks or heavy things, and you throw them against a wall, maybe not your neighbor's, or somewhere in your own house or something, or you smash them down. So that's power generation. Why? Because you're trying to throw something as far as you can or as hard as you can. You can also do this with weights, but then again you need to add an element of explosiveness. After these phases, you take it easy again. You go back to stability.
How long?
A month, usually. I usually say between 4 to 6 weeks for like to move through all these phases. This is subject to discussion as well. I sometimes mix this up, also depending on who I have with me or who I'm working with. But it's just, the most important thing is here, don't do the same thing all the time, because you will wear yourself out. Your body will become too accustomed to something and not make adaptations anymore, or it will have less tolerance because you keep doing the same shit. So people who've been doing exercises, but they're always doing the same stuff, you're basically wearing your body down because you never give it the rest it needs, or you're not challenging it enough to become better at it. So you need every once in a while a phase that is slightly easy. A deload phase, yes. One more for each element. Why? Because you want to do something for long enough that you see changes. So if you're going to the gym and you do something different every time, like that's too long. Too long, that's too short. Why? Because you can't see if you are progressing. So you want to track your progress. But if you want to take it very seriously, of course. Like I'm a personal trainer, so of course I take it seriously. But if you want to track progress, you need to do something for long enough so that you see progress. So usually I will do my workouts, or the same kind of workouts, 8 to 10 times, so I can see, oh yeah, I did this much weight on the first one, this much weight on the second one, and by the 8th or the 10th time, I'm doing more weight. I've become stronger. If you're going down in weight, it means you're overtraining. You're doing too much. So stop with that. So every once in a while, give yourself a little rest because it will improve your performance. This is hard because people are just like, oh, I can't take a week off the gym because I'll lose all my gains. That's not true. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks to start losing muscle. Okay, cool. So, recap, what do you need for HEMA? Sorry.
Really quick, what kind of conditioning do you recommend, like aerobic, like?
So what I do is I do boxing. Why? Because coordination, technique, reflexes, and it's also quite high paced. You could do sparring, of course, like also sparring that we do here as conditioning. The problem is that if you go running or biking or rowing or something, that is not really the same kind of conditioning that you need in our sparring, because this is much more high intensity than it is what we're doing in running. Running is aerobic, which means you can basically use air as a fuel, or oxygen as a fuel, while what we're doing in HEMA are fast twitch movements, which require a different kind of anaerobic. It will help, of course, if you can do this, but it's not exactly the same. So I prefer things like high intensity interval training, stuff like that.
Like on the boxing, do you focus on the fitness of the conditioning of boxing, or you also work with the sparring of boxing?
Both. You don't need to do sparring if you just have a boxing bag at home and you just go at it, trying for decent technique because it will help you. You just do some drills or interval training on a boxing bag for half an hour. You'll be dead, as in like dead tired, and you learn something at the same time.
And the 5 steps again?
So 5 steps, we have stability, strength endurance, hypertrophy, maximum strength, power. You can look this up as well. I didn't make this up, it already existed. It's all rooted in science, so that's good. So again, what I said before is you need, from HEMA, you need mobility. The test that we did in the beginning, but there's lots of different stuff that you need. So you need mobility, you need stability, for instance like knee stability as well. You need to train, I didn't say this, but it's also, of course, you need to train your body symmetrically, because we are an asymmetrical sport. We do lots of stuff on one side, we use one arm more, so you need to do stuff on both sides as well. You need technique, you need reflexes, balance, you need to power, because that's the most important thing, so that's explosive stuff, plyometrics, and you need to make sure you don't overexert yourself, and thereby every once in a while do a deload phase with these different phases of training.
What's your personal opinion on like a training like Matovich training?
Who?
Matovich?
Don't know him exactly, so.
Stepping on PVC pipes, water weights, like, have you seen that?
I mean, it can definitely help. There's loads of stuff out there, right? Like, there's so much stuff out there. It's sometimes hard to keep track of everything. Handy thing about using like water weights and stuff, it will increase your balance, it will increase your coordination because the water moves around. So that's of course very useful. That's also why I prefer free weights over machines, because it requires more stability, it requires more coordination.
So if we want to go on and assess our mobility further on our own time, what kind of resources or like people should we look for to like
So,
this kind of information?
So as I said, like I'm a movement and performance specialist, and there's definitely also people around from that movement in America. You could look up people from Rehab U, which is a Instagram profile as well, and they have people who are specialized in this kind of stuff. Personal trainers usually will be good as well, but it depends on what kind of personal trainer, because not every personal trainer is also focused on mobility, and they might be more into one kind of thing. Sometimes physical therapists as well, but it's more focused on rehab. So it depends. But Rehab U is a good source to look at. Like there are lots of people who've done this kind of certification stuff, and they are pretty well. Any other questions? Yes.
So
how do you prefer to track like power progression over time? Like do you like box squats for height and like
Yeah.
certain exercise for weight?
Or you can make the exercise harder. For instance, just to give you an example, if you want to improve your plyometric pushing power, like push-ups, the easiest way to do it, of course, first you start on on the table. You do stuff like this. If that starts to go easy, you can do it on the floor. Easiest way is to do this. You can make it harder by clapping, or clapping your chest, or clapping behind your back, clapping your knees. Just more, how you say it, more airtime. And lots of these things, more airtime. Or if you're using balls and stuff to throw it, you throw them further, or you throw heavier balls, stuff like that. So usually it's either adding weight or making the exercise harder by adding elements that require more airtime. For instance, you see that I'm not going to get mixed up in this. Another one I like, for instance, with plyometric power is what they call an Aztec push-up. And it's basically I'm going to push up and touch my toes.
Oh my god.
Stuff like that. So then you know you have enough airtime for that, which requires power, explosiveness. So that's how you can track those kind of things. Best thing always in next practice is write it down. Write it down and compare it to what you were doing here.
Record yourself.
Yes, that too. Any other questions?
I see you are very athletic.
Thank you.
How does this translate onto the ring for you? Do you feel,
Scary.
yeah, for your opponent, your problem, but in what areas are you
Well,
getting them to? Yeah.
one thing, I'm more explosive, which means I'm faster. Of course, there's lots of talented people here, so I'm probably definitely not the fastest around here. But I noticed a lot in my club, I am one of the fastest people. Why? Because I do a lot of power stuff, so I can be very explosive. That also means that because I do a lot of coordination stuff as well and a lot of mobility, is that I can get away faster. Which means that I do a lot of stuff while I do something and I retreat and I'm gone before they can basically start attacking me. It will also help all these things with things like distance management. Like just knowing like how close can you get. Also, the longer you do these kind of things, the better you get at it. I've been doing HEMA for 18 years, so I know how long a sword is, usually. And that helps me because I'm very conditioned on things like distance. Which is also important in things like boxing, of course. But it gives you just a lot of different things that you need for HEMA, along with technique. Obviously, technique is super important, but what's going to happen is, if people get tired, their technique becomes sloppier. If you're not tired, you're going to win. If you're equally technical, then the faster, the stronger, the more explosive opponent will win. So it basically gives you an extra edge for which you do not need extra technique. All right. Any other questions? No? All right. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this class. It's a lot of information, I know. I can talk about these things for a very, very long time, but I hope I've given you at least an inkling of what kind of things are important for HEMA training. So I hope you'll do something with that, and I hope you enjoyed this class. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.